on your back. It's long, long, long. It's long, long. It's big, it's heavy, it's wood. It's long, long. It's better than that, it's good. Everyone wants a log. You're gonna love it long. Come on and get your log. Everyone needs a log.
Log from Blammo.
Blammo! All right.
You're gonna get sued for that.
I know. How have you not yet?
Yeah.
Like,
All right, here we go. And we're back.
Yeah.
It's the worst podcast with my trusty sidekick and co-host Alan Dowling, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Let's see if we can give him a little...
applause.
Is it? Oh, I got to turn it up. There it is. Still figuring this thing out, folks.
Brava.
Yeah. We
Here's-
got a... It's packed here at the
So many people.
at the Faust Brewery Company.
My buddy Tony's out of here again.
Tony!
Tony!
What's up, Tony? We have Scott Anderson
Yes, sir.
with Urban Tree Company. How we doing today, buddy?
Great.
So I called up Scott. I'm like, hey, Scott, you want to do our worst podcast? And he said, yeah, man, I'll do it. I started following Scott probably actually just before COVID. We kind of connect during ASLA, which is the American Society of Landscape Architects, something like that.
I think you got that right.
I mean, close.
It might be backwards.
Is it?
I don't know.
You're probably right. So, myself, I'm in the playground business. Scott is obviously in the tree business. And I'm like, you know what? We both work with landscape architects. We do certain things. And a lot of people just don't know what, landscape architects do. And
I had no idea.
I know.
They're like my most important people now.
I know. They're kind of mine, too. They design pretty much anything you can think of that's outdoors in a way, right?
And they're kind of smart. And then they design the stuff that's indoors, too, because the architects can't figure it out.
Yeah.
They solve those problems and the transition between the two.
So there you go.
Yep.
So Scott, I wanted to talk about Urban Tree Company, and this is kind of free form. There's no script. It's the worst podcast. I wanted you to just tell us what Urban Tree Company is.
Absolutely. So we are sort of a full circle business. So we have tree crews that go out. We preserve trees. We trim trees. We treat trees. We do a lot of trees in construction. We work a lot on commercial facilities and new construction. And some of the trees have to come out. They're coming down because they're in the way, they're dead, they're diseased, whatever. Those are the trees that we send to the sawmill. And so we have a sawmill, a kiln for drying, several kilns, and a wood shop. And so we're taking the things that we take down and trying to figure out, like, hey, is this wood chips? Is this firewood? Or are these saw logs? Or in the case of parks and some of our crossover, playground logs.
Sure.
Which are kind of a hybrid, like, well, I don't really want to chop that up for firewood. It's kind of interesting, but it's not going on the sawmill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been to your facility a few times. Once a few years ago, and just we kind of collaborated talking about different things. I mean, with the logs, the slices, we can use it for balancing events. Like here we have, glass fiber reinforced concrete. We'll space them out. We call it functional linking, to where we can make it functional link to a playground structure.
That's some smart words right there.
Well, it just sounds pretty smart, but I'm not. But with your product, we've talked about, say, how can we incorporate more nature versus using this kind of stuff? And you've done actually one for a brewery.
We did Kunstler Brewery.
Where's that?
It's Southtown.
Okay.
Yep, Southtown, San Antonio. The Talking Tree Farm has some stuff. Yeah, we've done a few.
Yeah,
it's good fun. It's good fun. We're working on a nature school up in Austin. Everything has, everything is a trade-off.
Sure.
You know, you've got cost trade-offs, you've got durability trade-off. I mean, you've got all kinds of things. You just right application, right thing.
It's very common in the landscape world, landscape architecture world, nature. You know,
Yeah.
where they want more natural type stuff. And
Yep.
for me, as a playground designer, you know, we look at liability, longevity. We don't want the headache. But with low level, balanced type of play, this product, you repurposing trees in this way is an awesome way to do that.
And sometimes you can use the things on site. So Caris Park, that's going to be, there's some removals there that are going to turn into play structures.
Ah.
That's going to be a fun one. You know, I think the thing, you know, it's liability and functionality. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff on like Pinterest and Instagram that people have been like, oh, we want to do this. And it's like, wow, you cannot structurally put a tree upside down that's 40 feet tall and have kids climb on it. Like, that's not, my kids would destroy it and themselves doing that. My kids are the testers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have kids that are ranging ages 5 to 10. Is that
Yep,
right?
5, 7, and 9.
Yeah.
So they're
perfect.
rowdy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're the perfect demographic to tear some stuff up.
Big time. You know, my only regret is that we didn't have the playground manufacturer here in, you know, San Antonio or New Braunfels, so they can go test it out. But you have your stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
we've been developing a whole area at the yard that's nothing but play logs and playscape things. And every time we make something, we make a bunch of extras, and then we're pulling stuff aside. And it's great because you can see, and you know, and kids are funny, like they see the world differently than we do.
Sure.
Right. And I mean, partly because they're 3 feet tall.
Yep.
You know, and so everything looks a little different to them. And so the way that they interact with something is often different than how we might anticipate it getting used.
Well, let's talk about the name Urban Tree Company.
Mm-hmm.
You're married. You're first off, your name's Scott Anderson, but you're
Yes, sir.
married to Jennifer Urbanowski.
Or see,
See, I did it. I knew I
there
was
you
gonna
go.
mess it up.
Yes, Urbanzik.
Urbanzik.
So as Siri likes to say, urban chick. That's how Siri pronounces that.
Yeah.
So her she grew up in South Texas.
Yep.
And her family's here. They're Polish. We won't say that too loud in New Braunfels. But, they're, you know, and they came over on the boat in Poland and swam ashore, I think, down south, and I don't think there was border patrol back then.
No.
And so they got through, and they came up here, and her father started a business here called Urban Concrete, and has spun off a bunch of other things. We moved. We had a similar company up in Utah called Triassic. We had a bunch of kids, moved down here, sold that to the employees, and started Urban Tree Company with the idea that it's kind of a play on words. It's a nod to
Sure.
her and her family and her roots here. And most of what we do is in an urban environment. I mean, we do a lot of ranch work, but yeah.
Well, she just made Kins 5
Yeah.
very recently, right?
Yep.
And what was the segment about?
Just how we do things and what we do. I mean, I think that, honestly, I think they were just kind of smitten with her.
Oh, really?
She's got her own person. Yeah, they were like, man, you're something else, you know. And she is, and so I think like they were just real. Like it's a different thing. Like I guess what we're doing is different than most normal businesses.
Well, I mean, and first off, if you haven't seen their Instagram page or their LinkedIn profile, are you all on Facebook?
Yeah.
I mean, all of their social media is just—it's really cool and fun to watch. It always inspires me. I'm like, look what these guys are doing, and you know, it just inspires me to do more of the
Thanks,
same,
man.
just to spread what it is that you're doing in a good way. You know,
Thanks.
in a world that's crazy.
It is. I mean, it's nice to have those wins of like art, creativity, and like feeling like you're making some kind of positive difference with something.
Well, I know that you are, or that y'all are. So let's talk about some of the things that you brought and some of the things that you do with the trees.
Yeah. So I mean, we start with trees are coming down
Yeah.
for whatever reason, and a whole wide variety. I mean, there's invasive species, there's prize species, there's all kinds of things, and the challenge for what we call urban wood utilization is, what is it good for?
Yeah.
And each species and sort of size has something that it's like, oh, well, that's good for something. Sometimes that's like, well, it's only good for wood chips. But I mean, wood chips are usable and you can compost them and that kind of thing. Firewood would be a higher use than wood chips, and we sell firewood. But then you get into logs and each species, if it's a big pecan, everybody knows that you can mill up pecan and make beautiful stuff, or mesquite, that kind of thing. I brought this piece right here. This is a, let's call it a nut bowl. And this is Chinaberry. So invasive species, totally a weed, absolutely, and absolutely gorgeous.
It is.
Yeah. Right?
I would never have thought
Yeah,
that was an
I had an argument actually with another arborist at the TNLA conference,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Shut your mouth," and I'm like, "No, son, that's a Chinaberry," and he's like, "No way," and we got into it, and finally one of his guys was like, "Bro, you just don't get out in the field enough to cut these things." Good. Right? We won't mention names, and so hey, And here's the funny thing. So I got researching it, right? Because we made a couple things just kind of for fun. Because my guys call up and they're like, "Hey, I got this thing. Like, what do you want? Do you want this, right?" And I have to be like, "Hey, thumbs up or thumbs down. Either it's going to go firewood, it's going in the chipper, or we're going to make an effort to drag something heavy back, right?" And so we cut up a couple of these things that were cool. And I was like, "Wow, this is pretty awesome." And so we had a guy, I showed one of the mechanics at Jenny's dad's facility, and he's like, "You want this stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "Hey, I got a dead one." And this thing's like 24 inches in diameter and massive. So we took it down. It was hanging over his mom's house and died in the frost or whatever. So I started researching this stuff. It's actually highly prized for lumber in China. It's related to mahogany. Yeah.
So what makes it invasive? I don't get it.
So well, that's the deal. So I mean, it's just kind of like, one man's trash is another. So it's just. I mean, you're looking at. So there's Chinaberry. There's this is behind us is Tree of Heaven, Alcanthus altissima. So an invasive species is one that typically isn't from here, right?
Okay.
And is aggressively populating. So these things, these trees are growing here not because somebody planted them, but because some bird pooped them out, or they threw up a shoot. And the extent that they're invasive is that, or they might call them noxious, is that they're pushing out other species or
Okay.
dominating, right? Or otherwise potentially causing problems. But I mean, who's to say? Like everything moves. Catalpa is an interesting one. So Catalpa is native to the south, but it's spreading towards Texas. It's spreading into the Rocky Mountains. So it's indigenous to North America, but it's broadening its range. But it's not obnoxious. Like, it's kind of a nice tree, so people don't think of it as invasive.
That's so cool.
So it's kind of eye of the beholder kind of thing.
Okay.
Can we add in?
This is why you're here.
It's okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talk about trees like I talk about Star Wars, man. I love it.
Yeah,
It's amazing. That is so good. I do have one question. When it comes to these trees, and you were talking playgrounds, maybe specific.
Mm-hmm.
How do you determine a structural type of wood versus a decorative?
Yeah.
Like, does it vary? Is it in between? You mix and match?
So in that grading process, so obviously if it's a really nice piece of wood, it's beautiful, it's going to have great character, that kind of thing, the highest use that you could put it to would be custom furniture. You're going to make a conference table, a dining room table, beautiful chairs, an art piece, that kind of thing. but then you've got a whole bunch of stuff that's structurally sound, durable, but maybe it's not going to be pretty. And the one that we have here, oddly enough, is live oak. So live oak it's big, it's strong, it's durable. We've got tons of it. It's hard to mill. It's hard to work with. It is gorgeous. I mean, we make all kinds of things out of it, but it's tough to work with. And its growth form is not, you don't get this perfect straight. I mean, you look over here, there's like a really nice perfect trunk. That's beautiful. That would easily go on the mill. Live oak is curvy all over the place, which on the flip side lends itself really well to come down into some like little tripod, or or maybe it has a big hollow section in it, something that might make it neat, for a playground. And then like stepping stones, things like that, little, we call them like lily pads, where you like jump from one thing to, what was your super smart term?
Oh, we call it functional linking.
Functional linking. So when you're functionally linking these features, live oak is great because, I mean, that stuff just doesn't even rot. I mean, and so you can have longevity, durability. It's not a big splinter. It doesn't sort of break up into small pieces.
I was having a conversation with our custom team just yesterday about logs. And we wanted to do a kind of a stair step up to an 8-foot platform using like telephone poles that are soaked in creosote.
Yeah, that's great for children.
Which is great for children. It's actually not. It's very toxic.
It doesn't sound like it'd be great.
So
it keeps them from getting
older.
It's like microwaving them.
So, but there is a type of wood. It's called robinia.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And robinia wood it's not native. And
they clear cut the Amazon for that.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem that you run into in the playground world with natural wood is there's checking. Yeah. And checking is where it starts to split and splinter, and you have all these big openings. And then our Texas heat, not a good environment for that reason. So that's why they always look at doing a artificial, something very solid, tested. Whereas wood is a natural product. It's a very organic.
It's going to do what it wants.
That's pretty much it. It's going to do what it wants. In the playground surfacing world, our go-to is playground mulch because it's cheap, it's inexpensive. I'm actually kind of curious. Do y'all sell any of your product to New Earth, or to give them any of that?
So we had a massive soil and mulch yard. We were New Earth's biggest competitor.
Uh-huh.
There's really not a whole lot of money to be made in that.
Yeah.
They make all their money on the poop that they take from your pooper and scoop it out and make the compost.
Do you know what we're having right now problems with?
What?
Well, from ADA, this is not, it's not, I shouldn't say, I'm trying to use the right word. It's not, for a wheelchair to
roll on the mulch. Yes. So we worked with, they're out of like Minnesota or something.
IPEMA, was it IPEMA certification?
Yeah. But there's a big playground mulch company out of like Minnesota, no, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And we ran them hundreds of batches of mulch out of different grinders, different screens.
Can't pass.
To pass, but to get, because they were looking for the next best thing. They were looking for interlocking for wheelchair accessibility.
Yeah. Yep. Well, what I've discovered, and there, we need this to meet certain criteria. We have to meet ADA. And the only way that you can is if that mulch is compacted and maintained, which it never will be.
Right.
And so they've been sending batches at multiple companies, and pretty soon it's going to get to a point where it just, no matter who's providing the mulch, it's not going to pass.
Yep.
So these certificates only last for X amount of years, and once those are up, well, then they just go to artificial turf or poured in place rubber.
Yep.
I mean, but you go into Europe, they don't really care.
No.
They just like, the more danger, the better. And their playgrounds are awesome.
Yeah. And the other thing is that because we just had our first rainstorm in
forever?
I mean, that was a hot minute, and it's 100 now, and it's been over 100. Drought and water water conservation, playgrounds are a great place to capture moisture, detain runoff, that kind of thing, and mulch does that too.
Well, this has been a really awesome segment. I want to talk more, but I promised everybody that's here the worst conspiracy hour. Do you want to sit in on this? What do you got going?
I don't.
Are there any wood conspiracies out there?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a couple. There's
what?
one that walnut gives kids Down syndrome.
What?
Yeah.
Down-
The
Well,
kids.
that's nuts. Walnuts.
That's a good short.
Ching.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. I
Yeah.
think I got one. Is it this one? Oh, I got two.
There you go.
Nope.
Oh man, you give me all of them, baby. Yeah.
It's one of those.
Hey, FYI, are you wanting to do sound out there?
Well, I mean, I would love to. We have so many people. I can't. The background. It's the only
No, it's
thing I'm worried
fine.
about.
Yeah, no, actually, I was just curious because it wasn't playing. I didn't know if.
Well, I didn't turn it up.
Okay, no, that's fine. It's
Still-
fine.
I'm still figuring this out.
Yep.
You're good.
We're all still figuring it out.
Yeah, such is life.
So walnut gives kids,
Down syndrome. Yeah. I had
Off of what? Wood chips?
like
being
eating,
around them,
eating
playing
off
in
a
them?
baby spoon. So for years we had people come up and they would
Okay.
they would go with that, which usually then an airplane would fly overhead and they would be like, look at all those chemtrails, and you'd be like, bro,
Oh, I love chemtrails.
come on, man.
Yeah.
Like
That's
this is basic science.
Yep.
Like my
Yeah.
glasses sweating.
If they would just stop dropping that ancient
I
knowledge.
know. I know.
Oh,
We got,
That's funny.
there's a chemtrail switch in every airplane. Don't they know that?
Yeah.
well, yeah, that's
right
the
next to.
pooper.
Yeah.
It's the they're letting they're,
That's also another myth. They do not dump the
drop it.
pooper at all.
Trust me, I've dumped enough of them. I know.
Yeah.
No, it's right next to that chemtrail, and the landing gear switch is right there.
Yep.
Boop, boop. Yeah,
They're not
that's-
cruise ships. They're not just dumping over the United
Jump
States.
in it.
Yeah.
No, I like the. If I'm gonna go like wood conspiracies, when Landa Park, that was the OG Landa Park. It was just Splinter Central, man. It was, but it was real wood, and those are some of my best memories out there, man. I loved that stuff,
Right.
and it doesn't exist anymore, and that's okay, because kids don't get splinters anymore. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You got to knock on the real wood.
When I was growing up, there was a fire engine from the 30s in my favorite park, and piece by piece they took it apart because it was good.
yeah.
And finally, they just had a plastic sign that was like a picture,
Take these.
like a billboard of a fire engine. And I remember my mom taking me to that park. I think I was in college, and I cried.
They're like, you know what? After 75 kids having tetanus, we're gonna take
Yep.
this thing down.
I love the metal slides. Remember?
Oh yeah,
Like, yeah.
They burn
Yeah.
you're
Third
scalded
degree
by the
burns,
end
yeah.
of it. Huh. But you know it was worth it.
There's a
Just
company.
slide faster.
Yep.
That was the whole thing.
There's a company in Mexico that makes them, and you can get them. And we went to a spot in Comfort, and they had
Okay.
a brand new one that was super fast and lightning on fire.
Hey, where does cedar lay in the conspiracy / allergy / woodworking?
Yeah, so cedars. So the myth there, the myth there is so they are. I mean, you can see the pollen.
Yeah, they
in
can
a
all die.
windstorm.
Yeah, all those cedar
come
trees
off.
can die.
I mean, so that's legit. The cedars are sucking out all the moisture of our aquifers and stuff. I think is more of a myth, right?
Okay, yeah.
So
They do well in dry climates, but I've seen the most frequently dead tree I've ever seen in my life has been a cedar tree.
Really?
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's hill country though too. Maybe
So
that's
so
different.
they're native, but what happened was when we started suppressing fires, then they came out of the bottoms and the creeks and then came up in grasslands and pasture lands. But so it's tough because sometimes you can feel like they're choking out other species, but they're also shading those species, providing habitat, that kind of thing. So it's like, are they really as evil as people have made it out to be? And a lot of people make a lot of money just randomly whacking a bunch of trees.
Yep.
And I mean, at this point, as hot and dry as Texas is, I'd take any tree, honestly.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think you're right. The cedar it's a bad rap around here. I mean, I'm not allergic to it. I know
Oh.
a lot of people
You
are highly
lucky
allergic
son
to
of
it.
Right?
So.
I have to get the shot
Yeah.
every year.
I just
Yeah.
used the Navage. Have you seen the Navage?
No, what's that?
Oh my gosh, it's a battery-powered nasal sinus pump.
Wow.
And it goes in one nose, and it pushes water through one
Oh.
nostril, and it sucks it out of the other, and I don't know, it's kind of whatever. But whatever, you will never, you know when you can't breathe out of one nose
Yep.
and you can't, nostril, it fixes that.
Yeah.
It's just fine. Yeah.
I did have bad allergies growing up, but I finally got that fixed. Like I had
But that's vaccines.
probably vaccines.
Or they took. You had brain surgery.
Yeah.
Maybe they took
I finally
that
took
part
a-
out.
They do the deviated septum.
Oh,
and while
yeah.
they were in there, they're like, we can take like the drill and just kind of widen your nose a little bit, and that
wow.
way, so when the swelling happens, then you won't be so clogged. And I was like, I'll take that option. Yeah, just go ahead and.
That's in the mechanic world. They call that stepping it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was an option. They're like, would you like that? And I was like, fuck yeah.
You got a
So,
quarter inch all. We could step this up,
Yep.
if you'd like.
You got a bigger drill? 3/8. Let's do
Mhm.
this.
Let's
Yep.
do it.
Oh,
So,
That's good. That's good. What's your favorite tree?
oh man, that's tough. Favorite native tree is
That's good. Because if somebody asked me, what's your favorite airplane? I'd be like, my favorite bomber. Like what year?
Oh,
What,
yeah.
specific. Yeah. So, you're in. Okay. All right.
era?
Native tree. Let's go
probably
with that.
favorite native tree to Texas is an Anaqua. They're really neat. Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly.
Never heard of it.
So they were when white people came to San Antonio, there were Anaquas everywhere, and so when they built the hemisphere, the biggest tree ever moved in Texas to that date was actually an Anaqua
Okay.
that they moved in downtown. And so you look at them; they're low maintenance, beautiful, white flowers, super long growing.
Oh, they're flowering.
Yeah. Oh, they're
Okay.
gorgeous.
Oh.
They're gorgeous. If you go down the Pearl, has a
Yeah.
whole bunch
Okay.
along the river and that kind of thing.
Man, you're gonna make me look at trees.
Yeah,
now.
yeah, no. I mean, there's all kinds of cool things. We just saw everybody gets wrapped up in live oaks or pecans or whatever. And I mean, there's awesome things about all kinds of trees. I think that's a quiet, like, it seems to tolerate drought. It seems to tolerate frost. It's kind of a sleeper.
All right. What about? Do you smoke meat on a smoker?
Well, so
Cooking wood.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wanna
So
know.
so we spend a lot of time, and we spend a lot of time providing wood for both barbecue people and wood-fired pizza people. And that's been interesting. Like the wood-fired one was really interesting because they want to start with something really hot and really clean, like locust. I mean, it's just flaming hot,
Right.
or mulberry. And then they want to transition to something a little less hot, but with some coals, but good tasting. So like cherry, apricot, apple, peach, pecan, fruit woods primarily. The most interesting one, we had a barbecue place that was just like, send me whatever you got. And
I bet that tasted great.
well, I mean, there were some things where they were like, dude, this is terrible, and but they just wanted to try, they just curious, I mean, like, because everybody's like, I just want post oak, and it's like, okay,
That's
well,
me right here.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Because it's safe.
Well, it's safe, yeah, it's safe, and Grandpa did post oak, mulberry for chicken,
Really?
yeah. They got to the point where they exhausted our mulberry supply because they were doing all their chickens
Selling
with
out?
mulberry.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I
and
was
who's
like,
they?
this was up in Utah,
Oh,
and
okay.
so this was a barbecue place up in Utah, and yeah, they just got really interested in like what else is out there.
Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm a post oak guy.
Yeah.
I'll put some cherry on there every once in a while, and then
Yeah.
pecan, but then pecan just becomes a smoky nightmare, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, that's
And there's a lot of crazy fruit woods, and and that's the interesting thing is, because I think people are like, oh, there's like apples. Apple I think is although we don't really have a whole lot of apples down here.
Right.
That's a typical one for the north, but yeah, lots of different things.
is that a large operation? Any kind of like barbecuing wood and that type of stuff, or are you mostly dealing like
We have
large scale stuff?
We have mountains and mountains of everything.
Really.
Mountains.
I'm telling you.
I think we have the only online shopping cart for firewood in
Nice.
San Antonio.
That's awesome.
Well, because I mean, conspiracy theories, or man, you can go on Facebook Marketplace and you can find a cord of wood in the back of some dude's Toyota pickup truck that he'll sell you for $500, and then the guy next to him on Facebook has the same Toyota pickup truck and he'll sell you a cord of firewood that's not a cord for $100. I mean, it's such a shame. I mean, it's like it's terrible. It's really shady, and so yeah, like
Shady
Yeah.
trees.
Shady.
So real quick,
Yeah.
I want to do a shout out to John and Shayna. They are Oak Creek neighbors.
Oh, wow.
Did you hear that?
No.
And they are actually conspiracy theorists.
Another
over
tree
here.
species.
Yeah, I asked John and Shayna. I was like, "Come on, you got to come on." They're like, "No, we're not going to do it." But that's okay. I appreciate y'all very much for coming out.
What
Having-
are their?
Well, Shayna is one of the panel guests that we hope to have because we wanted Frankie to talk about flat Earth.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Shaney.
dang.
I love
Or
flat Earth.
Shayna, right? Shayna's a flat Earth theorist.
Theorist.
Is that what you would call it? Something
I suppose so.
I mean, if you believe in something, you would say they're a theorist.
Unless they consider it like a religion, and then you're practicing flat Earth thing.
I don't know how it
I
works.
don't. Yeah. I don't know.
She just went like,
What is it?
oh, that was funny.
It's what? She can walk in a straight line on a flat Earth.
Oh.
That's good. It
Texas doesn't have mountains.
does not. Well,
Well, it
We got
does.
hills.
It does,
Does have
but they're
the
very far
Guadalupe.
away. They're
Yeah,
very
the
far away.
Guadalupe
Yeah.
And
Mountains.
not many people
I've
go there, and
I've
you
been.
have to be in shape to get up there.
I've done
And
it.
so I think demographically, that maybe predisposes people in Texas to this flat, because it takes a long time to get out of here, man.
Oh, my
Shayna's
God.
It takes
like,
a
nah,
long
nah.
time to get out of here.
Texas takes
Yeah.
a long time to get out of Texas.
Yeah,
yeah, oh,
yeah, yeah.
8 hours to
Yes.
get to a
Yes.
border.
All
Yes,
of our
that's
road
true.
trips are majority getting the hell out of
And then
Texas.
you go and then you go to the ocean, and it's pretty darn flat there,
Yeah.
and you just kind of keep on going.
yeah. Well, it's all in good fun. I mean,
Yeah.
thanks again, John and Shayna, our neighbors.
I wish, who is it, Frankie?
Oh,
I
yeah.
know.
Frankie
She
was
was
here.
really into the flat Earth thing.
You know
last
what,
week.
Frankie?
Yeah.
That, you know what?
We'll get her on.
We you know what she said,
Yep.
and we're gonna
Well,
make it happen.
There's plenty of conspiracies out there. We can fill the gap for a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, you know what? This is
I like the new one I read on Facebook the other day. Roundabouts are causing tornadoes.
Yes.
All the cars
Oh
going
yeah,
around
I
roundabouts.
saw that.
Loved it.
That was
Loved it.
beautiful.
Yes,
You saw
we need
that
to get
one?
rid of roundabouts.
Yes.
get rid of them.
They're
rid of
causing
them.
all these tornadoes in Texas.
Well, and here's the funny thing. I drove through the roundabout right back here.
Yeah.
So you caused yesterday?
I caused yesterday, and in retrospect, so because you can affect the past by driving through these things. So today I drove through it, but I made yesterday's tornado.
Oh, wow.
But I was surprised at how fast people were going through there, and then I had the thought.
time machine,
that-
too,
then I
man.
had the
That's
thought
awesome.
that these people, they're German. This is a very European thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a very European thing, the roundabout,
Yeah,
because who the heck has time to stop at something? Why would you do that? That's way too safe.
We don't stop. We just go faster.
It's like the Autobahn. Yeah.
It's just go fast, man.
I love it. I read that the other day and I just started cracking up. I was like, that does make sense.
You know, the
all
place-
the cars going around in circles.
The place I've run into the most roundabouts was actually in Colorado.
They have a ton. They're
Yeah,
European.
They're everywhere, but
They're
but
going
no
for the
tornado. I
European
haven't.
thing.
I don't know. Last time you heard about a tornado in Colorado, I really don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. I just saw that.
Was it National Lampoon's Vacation where they got stuck going
They got
around
stuck on
European?
the-
Yes,
I was
that's
just
right.
thinking
That's
that.
right. Yeah, and they
He
get
lost the
stuck in
bumper, I think, right?
Hey, there's Big Ben.
Hey, there's
Hey, there's Big Ben again. Look at that, guys. Big Ben.
Oh, we
That's where
did.
Can you see Big Ben from that one? Because that's the art. I don't know how to say it. The Arch de Triomphe or whatever.
Oh, it's not France.
Yeah.
Yeah. Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah, that's the circle that they were in, though, right?
Yeah. I said Arc de Triomphe, and I said yeah
Yeah.
in German. Makes it up. Yeah, that's
All right. Well, let's talk about what we're going to talk about next week. I do have another panel guest lined up.
Yes.
TJ Grossi with Schumann Consulting. He is a gentleman that actually helped with Camp Whitewater, Camp Finpo.
Oh, Finfo.
I tried to get y'all to do a video with me there.
Yeah.
What was that, 2 years ago?
Yeah, you wanted the kids to play at the playground.
Yeah. Well, he helped on that.
Yeah, the
and
zip line.
Yeah, the zip line. That's right. 2 of them.
Yep, the adult zip line that kept breaking.
Yes, you do have
Yeah.
a good memory. Yeah. God,
that's on
thing.
that one.
I built a zip line in my yard.
Did
and
you?
I put one of my adult friends on it without testing it. And
Nice.
she crashed into the ground.
Yeah.
That was intense. That was awesome.
Our insurance umbrella is very expensive in what we need. I'm going to guess you probably didn't have one of those. Like, hey, it's on you, buddy.
I was like, oh, that sucks. Looks like you're going, you want some Neosporin?
Yeah, pretty much. But Schumann Consulting, they basically are like the in-between a general contractor and the owner. They actually help build this property.
Oh, cool.
But then been involved in others. They're doing the Comal Crisis Center.
Oh, the one that...
Yeah.
That's one that caught fire last year, right?
No. That was...
Yes.
Yes, and...
COVID caught it. Caught it
Yeah.
on fire. Yep.
Another conspiracy
yes.
theory.
Yeah.
COVID caught fires.
The Chinese came over here and they lit it on fire and they.
But...
they
I got TJ Grossi's coming out next week, but I want to keep the momentum going. I mean, we got some guests that came out all the way from Oak Creek Estates. Thanks again, John and Shayna.
Woo!
Woo! And Troy. Is it Troy? Tony.
Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
One day there's gonna be a guy out here named Tony.
Yeah.
And it's gonna mean something.
And he's gonna be like, "What is this?
Why me?
I'm not in on this joke."
Yeah, exactly.
But we're gonna have to buy his tab then.
Yeah.
So
We're still in the beta phase. I was just checking my camera. I have like 10 minutes left on the memory card. Like I
Oh,
said.
is that where you're trying to wrap up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to figure things out. I love the conversation.
Yeah.
I really, really do.
It was trees. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
That's an awesome. I mean, I love how people have figured out how to make their own businesses.
Well, I mean, who
Never
would have
would've
thunk it?
thought,
You know, I myself, the only A that I ever got was woodshop. That was my
Nice.
strongest subject.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason why I love going to your place, because I'm like, dude, like if I could, I would just live and work there every day.
Come out there. We'll put you to work.
I know, but I got my hands in so many things. I got the Make-A-Wish stuff. I got the podcasting, and I got This Is a Neighbor.
Right.
I mean, if I had more time.
You got your hands in your neighbor.
I just like that he loves seeing wood at his
Yeah.
buddy's house. It's all over the
Well,
place.
that's the other. I mean, the jokes. The jokes are good.
They
The
don't
jokes are
stop.
good. You can just it just goes. So
I think we're going to be toning it down a bit.
I mean,
Or I am. Maybe it's just me. This is only my second one.
I mean,
so,
don't get me wrong, guys. We could still keep talking. It's just I'm going to lose my video.
no, let's keep
I'm
recording
not
for
that
20
good
more
looking.
minutes.
You want to do 20?
Yeah, 20 more minutes.
Video or doesn't exist, right?
Now we got it. What?
video killed the radio,
Radio
star.
star.
Is that? Am I that old?
No, I know it. Hey, Jonathan De La Garza. What's up, buddy?
You know what?
Hey, we can do a video, wrap it up,
Yeah.
and then continue and do a.
You wanna do that?
Yeah. Do a video. wrap it
How
up.
do we want
I
to
have
wrap
no
it
idea.
up?
You-
This is your job.
Yeah.
You do the
You're
wrapping
the
up
host.
part.
Well, okay. Well, I got something playing.
We can
here.
talk about. I'll just keep talking about conspiracy.
Play the log
yeah.
theme song again.
You want to do the
How
log?
quickly
man, that
do you
was
think
great.
Ocean Gate actually lasted?
I'll do the
Oh
log.
man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can play in the log song right now. Let's see if it'll.
Oh, is that your
Now
outro now?
Well, we're
I've
gonna
got
do
like
it
an
as-
immediate response to it. I'm just gonna wait.
Oh, yeah?
Let's
Yeah,
outro this.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll play it. Maybe I'll play it here. Hold on. You ready?
Oh, that's great.
So I want to say thanks again to my guest, Scott Anderson,
Thanks so much for having me out.
Urban Tree Company.
Yes, sir.
Let's bump it.
Heck yeah.
It's for the trees, folks. Thank you so much. You guys gotta
Those are concrete, man.
sorry. Do it again. All right, we're gonna play and this is for you, John and Shana. Let me know if y'all can hear this. Hold on.
One rolls downstairs, a motor in pairs, rolls over your neighbor's dog. What's great for a snack and fits on your back? It's long,
Log.
No, it's okay. You can hear it still.
It's big, it's heavy, it's wood. It's long. It's better than that, it's good. Everyone wants a log. You're gonna love it long. Come on and get your log. Everyone needs a log.
Log from Blammo.
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 An urban tree company, apparently.
Yeah, man, we got logs for days.
Gosh,
Logs
that
for
was
days.
so much fun. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's keep talking. All right, Dan. There we're at.
He said we got logs for days.